Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, January 3rd. I'm Abby Huntsman in for Ainsley Earhart this morning. Well, he is back. Julian Assange wants to correct the record on the emails read around the world.
Our source is not the Russian government, and it is not state party.
And just wait until you hear what the WikiLeaks founder says about President Obama and the president-elect.
Meanwhile, Nancy Pelosi pleading with Republicans, please give Obamacare another shot. She says if they don't, millions of Americans will be worse off. That according to Nancy Pelosi's plea. More coming up, Pete.
Really? And the video, it's hard to watch. A toddler nearly crushed by a toppled
Oh my goodness, look at that.
I know, look at that. Unreal. Until a hero steps in, his mighty and courageous brother. You gotta see this video. You know, Julian Assange may be back, but so is Steve Doocy. Mornings are better with him and friends.
I'm just saying it's fine by me.
Live from Studio E in the heart of a rainy Midtown Manhattan, it is Fox and Friends for this Tuesday that feels like a Monday after New Year's Eve.
That's right.
Happy New Year to you, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Did you stay up till midnight? That's what I want to know.
I barely made it to 9.
Me too. We all looked at each other the next morning and said, I didn't see the ball drop, but...
Listen, we've got an exciting program. Tucker Carlson, the king of 7 p.m. right here on the Fox News channel, is going to join us live. We're going to talk about the news of the day.
He's going to get up bright and early this morning. Laura Ingraham is joining us this morning. Also, Karl Rove.
And with all the football being played, it wouldn't be a morning without Bobby Bowden as well, who's going to join us.
And Marie Osmond, who has been a guest on this program many, many times. She's so delightful. She's going to join us. And we're going to play some vintage Fox and Friends clip. Plus, Abby's got some interesting gossip. Well, not gossip about Marie Osmond, but there's a family connection that I had never heard until about a minute ago.
A very interesting one. You're going to want to stick around for this.
It's really good. By the way, we should point out that about 15 seconds before today's telecast started, the guy over there was pulling a Mariah Carey. He goes, my headpiece, I just can't, it's kind of muffled.
Yeah, listen, I need a reason to say I just wasn't there. My A game wasn't there. I couldn't
Well, you know
hear.
what, Pete? If you showed up for rehearsal, it might have worked out for you.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But no one's going to know that. No one's going to know that there was no rehearsal.
There never is a rehearsal for this program. Sometimes it shows, but he did get a new thing, and you can hear.
Are you
I
good?
can hear. Yep.
You're good.
All right.
Maybe.
I still want to hear it's sabotage later, so.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Well, listen, Democrats are saying that the Republicans sabotaged the election, and they hacked in, the Russians did, to throw the election to Donald Trump. Well, tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, Sean Hannity sits down for an exclusive in-person interview with Julian Assange. He flew over to London. Assange is holed up at the Ecuadorian embassy there. There's a warrant for his arrest out in Sweden. Nonetheless, Sean asked him very specifically, wasn't Russia behind it? Was it? This is what he says.
Can you say to the American people that you did not get this information about the DNC, John Podesta's emails? Can you tell the American people 1,000% you did not get it from Russia or anybody associated with Russia?
We can say, we have said repeatedly over the last 2 months that our source is not the Russian government, and it is not a state party.
Very definitive. Very definitive. And
with 1,000% surety.
Yeah.
That it's not Russia that is behind the election hacking.
And this is the source of the DNC emails was WikiLeaks, which released them drip by drip by drip going up the election to great frustration of Democrats and Hillary Clinton. Right. But if he's saying it wasn't the Russian government, then I think that is a voice we have to listen to, whether you like Julian Assange or not, and whether you like WikiLeaks or not, because the government, Barack Obama, our intelligence services haven't necessarily laid out exactly who it is or why exactly it is Russia.
Well, a couple of days ago, 5 or 6 days ago, while I was on holiday, that FBI Department of Homeland Security report came out. It was only 5 pages, but what was curious about is, first of all, it had a disclaimer. It did not claim to be accurate. And the second thing was, it did not mention WikiLeaks, which is curious. Julian Assange was on this program a couple of months ago, and he also reiterated it was not from Russia. It was not a hack, it was a leak. So it was somebody from the inside, somebody probably at the DNC this is just speculation, I'm connecting some dots, but probably somebody who did not like the fact that the DNC was throwing it for Hillary, and they were probably for Bernie Sanders.
And the big question still remains, why was President Obama doing this now when he had this information, 18 months ago? Also, what is the purpose of this? Why are they blaming Russia for this if that is in fact not the case? And that's exactly what Sean Hannity asked Julian Assange. Here's how he responded to that question.
The U.S. government is accusing WikiLeaks of having received these materials from Russia, and you say it's false. It did not come from Russia. And the President of the United States is advancing the narrative. Is the President of the United States lying to the American people?
Well, he's acting like a lawyer. If you look at most of his statements, he doesn't say that. He doesn't say WikiLeaks obtained its information from Russia, worked with Russia.
He's saying Russia's trying to influence the U.S. elections.
Yes. So he and you also note that he doesn't say, from the statements that I've read, he doesn't say that Russia was trying to influence the election for Donald Trump.
That's a very interesting point. You know, in the media, we see a lot of obfuscation, meaning, or conflation, saying election hacking, leading people to believe that the election itself was hacked. But what he's saying is that the parsed words of Barack Obama are very telling also. They're not able to say it was Russia, it's Russia linked or election linked, leading they could drive a truck through that explanation, and it gives them the ability to plausibly deny if it turns out it wasn't Russia.
But you know what ultimately they're trying to do is they're trying to, as Donald Trump comes in, cloud the water, muddy the water, so that it looks like Donald Trump became president of the United States with the help of Vladimir Putin.
That's exactly what he's trying to, and that's what Julian Assange said. He said this is their attempt to sort of undermine his legitimacy, the fact that he actually didn't win on his own merit. That's their whole purpose here. That's what Julian Assange is saying.
Which is why you see President-elect Donald Trump fighting back so hard. He understands that once narratives are established, they can solidify in the minds of people.
He knows something.
They can become true.
And he knows something, Mr. Trump, that no one else knows still, that's supposed to come out maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe about this hacking situation. It could be, Steve, about something completely different. Who knows?
It could be. Also, just know it would be very easy for Julian Assange to say, you know what, we got the documents from so-and-so. That would just end it right there.
Well,
but then again, if you're in the leaking business and you give somebody up, then nobody's going to leak
to do that. If you give up your source, people aren't going to leak to you in the future. But this is, again, tonight on Hannity is when the full interview is going to air.
Exactly right. 10 p.m. Eastern Time right here on your number one choice for cable news, the Fox News Channel. Meanwhile, it's back to business for lawmakers on Capitol Hill, where in just a couple of hours from right now, the 115th Congress will convene for the first time.
Yeah, back to business. Republicans promising an all-out assault on Obamacare, saying a repeal will be the first order of business.
And the Democrats are targeting the president-elect's cabinet. Doug McKelway is live in Washington this morning with the very latest. Good morning, Doug.
Morning, guys. You know, despite the whipping that Democrats took at the polls in November at virtually every level of elective office, they are vowing to put up a huge fight when the new Congress convenes today. Democrats are promising to go on the attack against at least 8 of Trump's cabinet nominees. The targeted 8 include Rex Tillerson at State, Senator Jeff Sessions for Attorney General, Mick Mulvaney at OMB, Betsy DeVos at Education, Andrew Puzder at Labor, Tom Price at HHS, Steve Mnuchin at Treasury, and Scott Pruitt at EPA. Soon to be Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer has promised that Democrats will slow walk those picks while attempting to ding them as much as possible, but they don't really have enough votes to block any of them. You can thank Harry Reid for that. The partial nuclear option that he put into place requires only a simple majority vote for the confirmation of all executive appointments below the Supreme Court level. And with hundreds of federal court picks to be made, Republicans will make full use of Reid's short-sighted move. By the way, Democrats at this point have no plans to target these 3 Trump picks. We're talking about James Mattis at DOD, Governor Nikki Haley, and General John Kelly at DHS. Now, one hint of how Democrats will attack these Trump nominees, Schumer said many of them have made billions of dollars off the very industries that they would be tasked with regulating. So you can look for Democrats to look very closely at tax returns, among many other things. Keep an eye on that. Back to you, New York.
All right. Thank you very much. Live from a drizzly D.C.
So as he was just saying, Nancy Pelosi now pleading with Republicans, saying, give Obamacare, just give it a second look. Here's what she said.
The fact is, it's the old thing of going into a china shop. You break it, you own it. And they're dealing with something that is very when I say complex, it's sophisticated.
Hold on. She says it's sophisticated. This is the same woman who, when selling it, said, we need to pass it.
Right.
So we can find out what's in it. It's so sophisticated. No, just pass it.
Yeah.
Then we'll find out. Well, now it turns out it's so sophisticated and complex that commoners like us just can't understand how beneficial it is to the American people.
Well, it's so sophisticated, people hate it. And that's why a majority of Americans would like to see it repealed and replaced, and that's the intention of the Republicans and Donald Trump. Nancy Pelosi also, she was busy. She was a regular Donald Trump yesterday, also tweeting. She said Republicans will leave millions of Americans without health insurance and worsen the coverage of many more. And that simply, according to the Republicans, is not true. They're going to fix it. They're not good. You know, there's so many problems with it the way it is. Republicans say they have heard the cries for help and they will fix it. And people will have insurance.
All Nancy Pelosi has to do is travel the country and go to some of the diners that Pete and I have been hanging out at and talking to everyday Americans about what they think about Obamacare. They will give her the real answer. What I will say, though, is it is complex when we talk about our healthcare system. Donald Trump, Mr. Trump, is going to have that challenge. And you know what? I think we should give him that opportunity to figure it out, because what we can see now is what we have is not working. It's not working.
No, it's not.
People need
the technocrats and bureaucrats in Washington always tell us it's so complex. You need us to tinker it and fix it.
Drink your lattes,
yeah, skinny jeans and lattes. We know about the folks in Washington. Oftentimes solutions can be more simple. Things like Donald Trump talks about letting you go through to different states and compete. The free market is an answer to a lot of things that technocrats will never acknowledge. But I want to put that tweet up one more time if we can. She says Republicans will leave millions of Americans without health insurance. You mean like the health insurance they lost when you gave them Obamacare?
Sure.
Or what about the worsening the coverage, those who don't have coverage or can't get coverage, or their premiums are so expensive they're choosing to pay the penalty instead? It's hypocrisy at its highest, and she's trying to pin Republicans down.
And a real disconnect there.
So let's see what's happening with the 115th Congress convenes today. In the meantime, it's time for news, and there she is.
Happy New Year, Heather.
Good morning.
Great to see all of you. Hope you had a great New Year.
Did you stay up till midnight?
I did not stay up until midnight. I bet you did, though. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're off to a great day. We start out right now with a Fox News alert and closing in on a killer. Chilling new images released overnight showing the suspected Turkey nightclub terrorist taking a selfie and then smirking. Take a close look at this man. This video taken just hours before that attack. Local media reporting that police have his fingerprints and know who he is. They say he's likely from Uzbekistan or Kyrgyzstan. Well, this is sources say he entered the country with his wife and children in November in order to not raise any alarms. His family members have now reportedly been detained. The only American who was shot is now home and speaking out about how he played dead in order to survive. Listen.
All I can say is it's a massive tragedy. This is very unfortunate. I don't want to talk about what happened inside the club. I was with 9 people. 7 of us were shot.
Turkish media now reporting that the video showing the killer escaping in a cab and then failing to pay his fare before trying to hitch a ride. Well, Customs computers back here at home are back online this morning after a nationwide outage that sparks mayhem across the country. Take a look at this time-lapse video from Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, one of the busiest in the world. Long lines as people return home from overseas. They had to be processed by hand. And then tempers flaring in Miami, where lines stretched at least a quarter of a mile and people started to lose their patience. The computer outage lasted about 4 hours. Customs says there's no indication the disruption was malicious. And those are your headlines. I'll see you back here in just a little bit. Busy
What a
day.
mess.
Back in Congress today.
No kidding.
Thanks.
All right,
Thanks, Heather.
Thanks, Heather. All right, straight ahead on this Tuesday, President Obama preparing to give his farewell address from Chicago, where that city saw the highest murder rate in decades. Doesn't Windy City really have a reason to celebrate? We'll talk to somebody who lives there.
Yep, and a mid-air meltdown all caught on camera as a passenger goes berserk on a flight attendant and a plane packed full of people. What set him off?
I'm calm as can be. I'm yelling at you. I'm not yelling. You want to hear me yell?
Welcome back. Well, the numbers are staggering. Chicago ending 2016 with 762 homicides. Compare that to 459 in 2009. That's when President Obama took office. And this, in spite of that spike, President Obama will give his farewell address from there 1 week from today. So here to react, Brunel Donald Shea. She's from Chicago and a part of the President-elect's inaugural committee. Good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning. God bless you and God bless America.
God bless you as well. So you think 8 years ago is when President Obama left Chicago. Here he's going back for his farewell address. How has his city changed in the past 8 years?
Okay, well, I'll tell you what's changed. You know, in front of his house, there's barricades and the murder rates went up. That's the change in Chicago. No investment in communities, no investment in education, no investment as far as vocational programs, youth programs that anybody can feel on the ground anyways. But really no real change. It's real sad. It's really sad.
Yeah, well, it is such an issue, so much so that here's what Mr. Trump tweeted about this yesterday. He said Chicago murder rate is record-setting, 4,331 shooting victims with 762 murders in 2016 alone. If Mayor can't do it, he must ask for federal help. I mean, I'm asking you, you've been a lifelong Democrat. You switched your party this time around, voted for President-elect Trump. What is your thought on his tweet there?
What I would say is this: federal help is needed. And you know, I'm very happy that Mayor Rahm Emanuel is open to having the president-elect come in and be of help. And what I think that President Obama should do is he should get behind the president-elect like never before. And I believe the president-elect said he's going to get counsel from Obama sometimes, that he will help the president-elect do what he couldn't do, which is help our inner cities, help Americans, not to leave Americans behind. That is what I think he should do. Support our president-elect at the inauguration, letting us all know that he's behind the president-elect in helping our inner cities and Americans.
Brunel, I mean, you look at these numbers, they are staggering. What happened in the past 8 years? What happened? How did it get so wrong?
Well, I'll tell you this: when you have people who are not getting the proper education, when you made promises of hope and change with jobs and vocational programs that never came, and so people sat on life support, literally waiting for a change, waiting for jobs, waiting for education. And so what happens with idle hands? It's the devil's workshop. People, instead of going to work, putting on their suit and ties and uniforms, they're going to pick up guns to feed their families, sell drugs to feed their families. And so we have got to do something. The president-elect has made a contract, a new deal with the inner cities. Look, I'm going to put $100 billion in your inner cities over the next 8 years. Let's see what we can do about that murder rate then.
All right, Brunel, we're going to have to leave it there. A sad reality. Good to see you this morning, though.
Good to see you, too. God bless you.
God bless as well. All right, up next, remember when interim DNC chair Donna Brazile said this?
I denounce Donald Trump for not denouncing the kind of vitriol, the kind of violence that he has perpetrated.
Well, now Donna Brazile is saying the Dems deserve a seat at Mr. Trump's table. What do Republican voters think about that? And liberals celebrating higher minimum wages, but you won't be after we tell you how it's already hitting your wallet. We're going to explain that coming up.
Welcome back. Some quick headlines for you. Minimum wage increasing in 19 states in the new year. But restaurants, they are already passing the cost, predictably, on to you, the customer. The owner of this Colorado diner saying he's already increased the price of his kids' meals by $1. Voters there approving a 99-cent wage hike that gradually increases to $12 an hour by 2020. Economics is economics. And first, France told their workers they didn't have to answer emails at home. Now in Finland, people don't even have to work to get paid. A new program there giving 2,000 jobless Finns selected at random about $600 a month. No questions asked. Steve, I'm going to sign up for that.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, Pete, thank you very much. Are Democrats ready to work with President-elect Donald Trump? The interim DNC chair says, you betcha.
He has an enormous opportunity, as every president in the first 100 days, to show that, he's eager to find common ground, to meet with, Democrats.
But after such a contentious election, remember, are Republicans willing to make some room at Mr. Trump's table for the Democrats? Lee Carter is the president and a partner at Ms. Lansky and Partners. She joins us live in the new year. Good morning to you, Lee.
Great to be here.
Okay, so there you got Donna Brazile, the debate cheater, saying, you know, it's incumbent upon Mr. Trump to welcome the Democrats to his table. Shouldn't it be the other way around as well?
Well, at least it should be both sides should be agreeing that now is time to come together. And the thing that I think is most important that we pay attention to right now is that the Democrats still haven't come to terms with what just happened.
Right.
You know, Americans around the country said, we want a new day, we want change. We're responding to Donald Trump's message of deals, of coming together, of, you know, repealing executive action, of saying that we've got to make things happen. We want government to work for us, not for special interests.
Sure.
And they're basically saying, you know what? We'll work with Donald Trump if he reaches out to us. And that's exactly what the American people said they don't want. They want a government that's working on behalf of them.
But the people of the United States spoke, and Donald Trump won fair and square, as we have heard. And if the Democrats, as is suggested, you know, our news people down in Washington, they've got these stories about how the Democrats are ready to try to blow up 7 or 8 of Donald Trump's nominees for his cabinet. That sounds like they're going to be obstructionists.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's not going to be good for them.
That is not going to be good for them. I mean, they're really promising gridlock right now. They're saying we're going to give all.
That's not what people want.
And that's exactly why Donald Trump won. He said, "Look, I'm going to get down there. I'm going to make deals. I'm not going to be beholden to anybody. I'm going to, you know." He says that he's going to have big actions, but he also says that he's going to compromise. That was part of his language. That was part of his message.
Sure.
And it's one, you know, that won the election. On top of that, they have to understand that Democrats, it's not just the presidency that they lost. They lost the Senate. They lost the House. And they've got to understand that they've got to have a message on what they're going to do, not what they're not going to do. This isn't an anti-Trump message. This isn't an anti-anything message. But they have to understand that they've got to start talking, what are you going to do for the American people? What are your policies all about? And they don't have that message right now.
Well, we do know what Donna Brazile has done. She cheated because she fed the Hillary camp questions before town halls and stuff like that. She lost her job at the DNC. She can't be trusted, and yet listen to some of the stuff she said.
I denounce Donald Trump for not denouncing the kind of vitriol, the kind of violence that he has perpetrated with his angry rhetoric.
Since I play straight up, and I'll play straight up with you, I did not receive any questions from CNN.
No, boo-boo. And next time, don't bring me no emails unless you have cleaned your system, okay? Don't bring nothing corrupting to me.
Given that all you've said about this hack, do you think Donald Trump's win was legitimate?
Donald Trump used this information in ways to also sow division. I was very disappointed, and his repeated usage of some of the stolen information. He used it as if he received daily talking points.
So is the election legit?
The election was tainted by this intrusion.
So after she repeatedly blew up Donald Trump, now she's saying, you know what, Donald Trump has an opportunity to be nice to people.
You know what? It is really astounding to think that they ran their entire presidential campaign on Donald Trump is dangerous. And it's stuck with a lot of people. People are saying he's racist, misogynist, a bigot, all of these things. And now he's the one that's supposed to extend an olive branch. They would have been much better served to say, you know what? The election's over. It's time for us to come together. We're going to come to the table. We want him to. We want to make things work again. This is a big mistake. It's a missed strategy. And I think the Democrats are really lost. They need a new leader.
Listen, whatever the Democrats say, Donald Trump is a negotiator. He wants to win. He's going to bring both sides together. I read last night that he said he actually liked Chuck Schumer better than he liked Speaker Paul Ryan and the majority leader over in the Senate, Mitch McConnell. So it sounds like he's got a good relationship with a number of Democrats. He's going to get stuff done.
That's right.
We all hope.
That is the hope, and that's why I think he won.
All right. Thank you very much, Lee Carter.
Thank you.
All right. Straight ahead on this Tuesday, he went viral when his mugshot became his headshot to a modeling career. Remember that guy? So where is the so-called hot felon now? Well, you're not going to believe it. We're going to tell you. And America has been patiently waiting for the second of 2 baby bald eagles to hatch. So what happens after that? We're about to find out when eagle expert Al Ciceri and Challenger join us live next.
I wanna fly like an eagle to the sea.
That eagle isn't flying this morning. It's keeping the baby eagle under her warm as millions of Americans keeping an eagle eye on this live camera, hoping to see a second eaglet hatch down in Fort Myers, Florida.
Yeah, we cannot take our eyes off this live cam. We witnessed the first one make its world debut live over the weekend right here on Fox and Friends.
Yeah,
well, it hatched, of course, during the show on Saturday morning, right,
That's
Pete?
why I was a bit off my game that day. I was watching the hatching. Joining us now to cover all this and talk about it is the president of the American Eagle Foundation, Al Sissery, and challenger, the bald eagle. Holy cow, what a strikingly beautiful bird. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Steve, Pete, and Abby.
Well, we really appreciate you joining us. Tell us a little bit about this beautiful bird and this camera. How did it come to be that we're watching live these eggs being hatched?
Well, I mean, eagle cams are very, very, very popular across the country. There's a number of nests that have cams on. Our foundation has two nests themselves. We have one in Washington, D.C. at the Arboretum and one in Northeast Florida. But the nest down in Southwest Florida is the baby hatched about 3 days ago. It appears to be very, very healthy. The other egg should hatch very shortly, if not see a pip very shortly, because they usually will hatch 2 or 3 days apart.
Did you say pip?
Pip is a little hole that the baby pokes through the eggshell with his beak.
Okay.
It's the first hole. It's the first hole.
Okay. Now, Al, when you have been watching this video, and we're re-racking the video from a couple of days ago when the first eaglet did the pippin and then did the popping out.
The pippin and the popping.
Has this appeared to be what eagles normally do? Because we've noticed the male and the female in the nest at certain times, which kind of flies in the face of a lot of members of the animal kingdom, where once the baby is born, you never see the male again.
Well, you know, in birds of prey and bald eagles, the male and female take turns incubating the eggs. They take turns hunting for food, and they take turns feeding the baby. I mean, it's like a modern day family in a sense, but they're monogamous, so they mate for life.
You know, you have millions of people, as we said, that have been watching this live cam. It really has become a thing. Al, tell us how this started. This whole live cam watching the birth of the eaglets.
Well, I mean, like I said, I don't know much about this particular cam. It's been on air for several years. Our cam in Washington, D.C. at the Arboretum has been on for 2 years, and we have a nest in Northeast Florida, the Romeo and Juliet nest, that's been on for 3 years. But this particular nest has been going for, I believe, for about at least 4 years.
Yeah. And Al, Al, it's not just watching a bird being hatched. There's something magical, something mystical about the bald eagle, because it is the symbol of America.
Right, and you know, watching these eaglets hatch on cameras is a very intimate thing, and people are just amazed how attentive the parents are. I mean, they'll do anything to protect their young, and they're very, very careful with their talons and everything else when they're around the babies and the eggs. People just love it. I mean, they love the intimacy of it and the things that they get to see that people wouldn't normally see. Yeah. And you can learn more about eagles watching an eagle cam than you can reading it from a book, honestly.
It's so true. Well, what a beautiful bird. We've loved having you on this morning. We've loved watching this live cam. We're hoping the best for eaglet number 2.
That's right.
All right,
thank you, sir.
All right, it is 23 and a half minutes before the top of the hour, and Heather joins us on this Tuesday that feels kind of like a Monday.
Yeah, it certainly does. Good morning, everyone. I've got an important story to bring you. First, out of Colorado this morning, and that is where police need your help. There is a massive search underway at this hour for a young Colorado boy who is said to have wandered away from his home on New Year's Eve. His heartbreaking mother pleading for his return.
Worried with how cold it is that something might really bad happen to him. Please help me find him.
That beautiful little boy is 6-year-old David Puckett. We're told he was wearing just a thin coat in Aurora's below freezing temperatures that night. Police say the boy has a slight learning disability and has wandered off at least 2 other times. Please keep an eye out for this young boy. Well, this video is going to take your breath away, especially if you are a parent. I can't even watch this right now. A 2-year-old boy pinned underneath the dresser and his twin brother then coming to the rescue. You can see him as he struggles to move that dresser off his brother, and eventually he slides it off. Both boys are okay. The parents discovering this footage on their surveillance system in their home. They posted the video on YouTube as a warning for other parents. We're not sure who produced that dresser just yet, but we'll let you know if we find out. Well, police storming a packed United Airlines flight after a passenger goes berserk on a flight attendant, all because he was mad about his seat assignment.
How calm is going to be? I'm yelling at you. I'm not yelling. You want to hear me yell? Do you know how cool it would be to have the airplane turned around with me? You're going to do that? You do that. I'm being so impolite, aren't I, fat?
Well, that plane was bound for San Francisco from Sydney, Australia. It had to divert to New Zealand, where that man was arrested. The other 254 people on board were forced to wait another 24 hours for their flight. And he was dubbed the world's hottest felon. Do you remember this guy after his mugshot went viral? And now 2 years later, can't believe it's been 2 years already, Jeremy Meeks is proving that life after crime can pay. The former gang member turning his life around, and now he's a full-time model. Take a look at this. He's posting these pictures of his newfound high life for all his admirers to see. In one, he stands shirtless in front of the mansion. He captions it, "God is good." And there he is, just pouring a nice little cup of coffee or tea in the morning.
Nice little cup of tea.
So he went from the
turned his life around.
He went from the big house to owning a big house.
Well, it looks like that, yeah.
You know what? Good
Not
for him.
bad.
Yep. Good for him. Thank you, Heather.
Landing on his feet and just making tea. All right. Turning now to some extreme weather. At least 5 people are dead as tornadoes, wind, and rain leave a trail of destruction in the south.
In Alabama, police officers forced to rescue drivers trapped in floodwaters.
This is a prime example as to why not be out. It's because we have a vehicle submerged in water at this time.
Wow, that deadly storm now moving east. Senior meteorologist Janice Dean is here with what to expect. And Janice, it's pretty crummy out there, but you're saying it could get even worse.
Right. That storm system that brought the devastating tornadoes is actually moving across the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. We had over a dozen reports of tornadoes yesterday and over 150 reports of wind. So this is a very spring-like system. It's interacting with very warm, unstable air ahead of it. And look at all of that rain that's coming towards us here in the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. And then as it gets towards New England, we could see a wintry mix as well as ice. So this is going to be an ongoing thing. If you have travel across the Northeast, you're going to have some delays and cancellations. So keep in touch with your airline. Our next big system moves into the west this week, and that's going to bring inches of rain and feet of snow. Our cold front, our Arctic cold front is on the move, and that's going to bring temperatures below freezing for millions. You can see nature's wind machine here working its power across the Northeast, and that cold front is going to sink as far south as the deep south and actually could bring some wintry weather across the deep south and ice as we head into the weekend. So it is a lot to talk about today. Obviously, the devastating tornadoes, and that system is moving into the Northeast. So we will keep you posted throughout. Fox and Friends, back to you inside.
All right, come on in, Janice. It's nasty out there.
I will.
Right. Thank you, Janice. Well, it might go down as the biggest disaster of 2016.
15 minutes top of the hour. We're back with some quick headlines. Starting today, Dylan Roof will represent himself in court as a jury decides if he lives or he dies. The convicted killer is set to come face to face with family members of the 9 people that he gunned down inside a South Carolina church last year. Roof doesn't plan to call any witnesses himself. And the city of San Francisco considering a city-funded drug den for heroin addicts. A study finding a supervised injection site could save the city $3.5 million a year. But Mayor Ed Lee says he doesn't want to see people shooting up on the city's dime.
Meanwhile, in other news, a Supreme Court shocker perhaps, President Obama could use a little-known loophole to force Merrick Garland onto the Supreme Court, and it could all happen at high noon today.
Interesting. Fox News senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano. He is here to explain. Judge.
Good morning, guys, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Well, there is a provision in the Constitution that allows the president to make recess appointments to federal jobs that require him to appoint the person and the Senate to confirm. Recess meaning the Senate is in recess. Now, the Supreme Court has said the Senate decides when it's in recess, except for today, when the old Senate ends at exactly noon, and the new Senate begins at 1 second after noon, 1 minute after noon.
Well, you can't do it in 1 second.
He would have to time this with perfection. And believe it or not, this has happened in the past, but not with the Supreme Court. We have had justices of the Supreme Court who've been given recess appointments when the Senate was actually in recess, and then months later they were confirmed. Justice William Brennan, who sat for 27 years, was appointed by President Eisenhower in 1956, took his seat immediately, no hearings, no investigation, nothing. Then the hearings and the investigation while he was a sitting justice, and he was confirmed in 1957. But the fear that some people have is that President Obama, one last slap at President-elect Trump and the electorate that made Donald Trump the president-elect, would do something like this, which would put Judge Garland or someone in the Supreme Court for 2 years. Now, that would mean that Merrick Garland...
Not for life.
Not for life. Merrick Garland would have to give up his life tenure on the United States Court of Appeals right below the Supreme Court. Unlikely he'd
Would he even want to do that?
I don't think so.
And 2 years is the window for confirmation, is what it is. So if he wasn't confirmed within 2 years, then President-elect Trump gets to choose somebody else?
Yes, but 2 years is the term of the Senate that begins at noon today, and the term of the appointed but unconfirmed Supreme Court justice would be coterminous with that term.
So it is possible, highly unlikely, but I mean, if the President of the United States was in the Oval Office and he had the atomic clock right there and he's just watching, okay, and he just signs it right there.
Yep.
That would be effectively what Teddy Roosevelt did 168 times.
Before the atomic clock existed.
Right.
Yes. Now, Barack Obama has had a lot of problems with recess appointments. He made 3 recess appointments to the National Labor Relations Board, which made some rulings against companies, and those companies said this wasn't the real National Labor Relations Board because these people weren't confirmed by the Senate, because the Senate was not in recess when he made the appointments. And the Supreme Court said 9-0, including his 2 appointees, voted against him. The Senate decides when it's in recess, except for today, when the Senate term concludes at noon.
So atomic clock.
That's so interesting.
Not to geek out too much, but does that mean if he did this, Supreme Court decisions might not be valid as well?
No. If he did this, he would be adding one more justice to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is not actually sitting or making rulings today.
But you say this is not likely to happen. So then what happens from here with Mr. Trump as he gets in office and then wants to pick his own?
He has indicated that he hopes to name the person he's going to nominate to replace Justice Scalia before he's sworn in. So in 2.5 weeks, we may know who that is. And of course, he's expecting to have additional seats to fill during his 4 years in office.
So stay tuned. Watch Outnumbered today at noon to see if anything happens crazy.
They've actually asked me to be on call, but this would be so fantastic if you could time it to the 2 or 3 seconds.
Well, you're going to do it, aren't you? Aren't you going to be on call for that?
I'll be ready.
Oh, you're good. He's always, like the Senate, he's always in session.
You're always on call, Judge.
Thank you, Judge.
All the best, guys, and Happy New Year to you.
You too.
Thank you.
All right, we've got a huge show. It can't get any bigger than the judge, but it's going to get bigger somehow. Tucker Carlson and Karl Rove are going to join us.
Yeah, top of the hour. And President-elect Donald Trump made this household phrase. Listen.
You're fired. Okay, go. All right.
Well, now there's a new boardroom boss and a new catchphrase. Carly Shimka's here with our first look at Arnold on The Apprentice. You're not going to want to miss this. Come on in, Carly.
Hasta la vista, Judge.